The product launch protocol, from 0 to version 1.0. Your idea is not your product. It's a hypothesis, and until it's tested against reality, it has zero value. The graveyard of startups is filled with brilliant ideas that were poorly executed. The fatal error is believing that passion and a good concept are enough. They are not. They are the starting fuel, but they are not the engine. The engine is the system. It's the repeatable, logical process that translates a thought into a utility. Today, we are installing that operating system. This is the 0 to 1 protocol, a 3-phase system designed to take your idea, strip it down to its viable core, and build it into a functional asset. We will cover Phase 1, the validation protocol, Phase 2, the minimum viable product framework, and Phase 3, the iteration engine. Stop dreaming about your idea. Start architecting it.
The validation protocol. Before you write a line of code, design a logo, or register a domain name, you execute this protocol. This is a non-negotiable first step. Failure to comply is the primary reason businesses fail. They build solutions for problems that don't exist. The validation protocol is your insurance against your own assumptions. It is the system that separates professional operators from hopeful amateurs. The objective is not to build a product. The objective is to validate a hypothesis. Your business idea is nothing more than a hypothesis, and it must be subjected to rigorous, objective testing before you deploy significant resources. The protocol is designed to extract 3 critical data points from the target market. These are your go, no-go signals. First, pain point verification. You must confirm that the problem you believe you are solving is not just a minor inconvenience, but an acute, persistent pain point. A nice-to-have will not build a business. You are looking for a hair-on-fire problem, a problem so significant that your target user is actively, and often unsuccessfully, searching for a solution right now. How do you verify this? You don't ask them, you observe them. You go to the digital environments where they operate, forums, subreddits, professional groups. You listen to their complaints, their questions, their makeshift workarounds. For example, if your hypothesis is that small e-commerce owners struggle with inventory reconciliation, you don't ask, is inventory hard? You find them complaining about spending entire weekends manually counting stock, losing money on ordering errors, and being unable to get accurate profit reports. You are hunting for evidence of pain, not opinions on your idea. Second, solution resonance. Once you have confirmed the pain, you test if your proposed solution resonates with the target market. This is not the time to build the solution. You build the simplest possible representation of it, what we call a minimum viable offer. This could be a one-page website, a simple slide deck, or even a PDF document that clearly articulates the value proposition. It explains what the solution does, for whom, and what the specific outcome is. Using our e-commerce example, your minimum viable offer would be a landing page that reads, "Stop wasting weekends on inventory. Our automated system syncs your sales channels, predicts stock needs, and generates one-click profit reports for online store owners who want their time back." Below this, you place a single call to action, request early access. The conversion rate on this button is a direct measure of your solution's resonance. It's a clean, unbiased data signal. Third, and most critical, willingness to pay. Positive feedback is worthless. Signups for a free newsletter are a weak signal. The only true validator is a financial commitment. This is the point where the protocol becomes real. You must ask for a transaction. It doesn't have to be the full price of your final product, but it must involve the transfer of money, a small deposit, a pre-order for a significant discount, a paid consultation to map out their needs. On your landing page, after they click Request Early Access, the next step could be secure your spot for a one-time, fully refundable $50 deposit. Early Access members will receive the first year of service at a 50% discount. The number of people who complete this transaction is the only metric that matters. It transforms a potential user into a paying customer before the product even exists. It proves they don't just like your idea, they need it enough to take a financial risk on it. This three-step protocol, verifying the pain, testing solution resonance, and confirming willingness to pay, is your entire mission in phase 1. You run these tests quickly and cheaply. If the data comes back negative, if no one seems to have the pain, if the offer doesn't resonate, or if no one will pay, you have not failed. You have successfully invalidated a bad hypothesis with minimal loss of time and capital. The protocol has done its job. You then adjust the hypothesis and run the protocol again. You iterate until you get a clear, undeniable signal from the market. Only then do you proceed.
The minimum viable product framework. The most common point of failure in any new venture is not a lack of funding or a bad idea. It's building a complex, feature-rich system in a vacuum, only to discover that the market doesn't want it. This is operational malpractice. We will replace this brute force methodology with a surgical, data-driven framework. The minimum viable product. An MVP is not a cheap or incomplete version of your final product. That is a fundamental misunderstanding. An MVP is a high-speed intelligence-gathering tool. Its primary function is not to generate massive revenue. It is to validate your core hypothesis with the minimum possible expenditure of time, energy, and capital. Think of it as a reconnaissance mission. You don't send your entire army to scout an unknown territory. You send a small, agile unit to gather intel, assess the terrain, and confirm the target's location. The MVP is that recon unit for your business. The framework is composed of 3 components: minimum, viable, and product. First, minimum. This requires you to deconstruct your grand vision down to its absolute, indivisible core. What is the single most critical problem you are solving? What is the one function that, if it works, proves your entire concept has merit? Everything else, every bell, whistle, and nice-to-have feature, is noise. It's a distraction that increases cost and risk. Your objective is to isolate that one core function and build only that. If your idea is a platform to connect dog walkers with owners, the minimum is not a GPS tracking app with a payment gateway and a rating system. The minimum is a simple spreadsheet or a private group where you manually connect the first 10 clients to the first 10 walkers. You are testing the core hypothesis. Will people use a third party for this connection? Second, viable. The product must work. It must successfully perform its single core function. A non-functional prototype is not an MVP. It is a failure. If your MVP promises to automate a single data entry task, it must execute that task flawlessly. The user interface can be rudimentary, the process can be slow, but the promised outcome, the viability, must be delivered. If the recon unit's radio doesn't work, the mission is a failure. Viability ensures the data you collect is accurate. Third, product. This is the vehicle for your test. It can take many forms, and rarely does it require complex code in the early stages. A landing page describing the service and collecting email signups is an MVP. A simple presentation delivered to 10 potential clients to gauge their buying temperature is an MVP. A Wizard of Oz MVP is a system that appears automated to the user, but you are manually performing the entire task behind the scenes. This is the ultimate validation. You are testing market demand before you invest a single dollar in building the automation engine. You replace assumption with data. You replace massive upfront risk with a small, controlled, and highly informative experiment. This is the tactical deployment of capital. This is how you build a system that wins. Let's operationalize this with a real-world example. Your goal is to build an automated social media content system. The old model would have you spend a year and $50,000 building a complex software platform. The MVP framework dictates a different approach. Your hypothesis.
Businesses will pay $100 a month for curated, high-quality social media posts for their industry. Your MVP. 1. You create a simple one-page website. It clearly states the value proposition. Receive 20 expert-written social media posts for your industry every month for $100. 2. You include a Subscribe Now button connected to a simple payment processor. For the first 5 customers who sign up, you personally research and write the 20 posts and email them as a Word document. Total cost, less than $100. Total time, 1 week. The result? You haven't written a single line of code, but you have definitively answered the most critical questions. Is there a market for this product? Is the $100 price point correct? This is not a theory. You now have empirical data. You have paying customers. Now, and only now, do you use that revenue and that validated learning to begin building the automated system. You replace assumption with data. You replace massive upfront risk with a small, controlled, and highly informative experiment. This is the tactical deployment of capital. This is how you build a system that wins.
The iteration engine. You have built the machine. You have automated its functions. Most operators stop here. They believe the mission is complete, and they put the system on autopilot, expecting it to run flawlessly into perpetuity. This is a fatal strategic error. A static system in a dynamic environment is a dead system. It just doesn't know it yet. Phase 3 is about installing the final and most critical component, the iteration engine. This is what transforms your automated business from a simple machine into an adaptive organism. It's the difference between a version 1.0 product and a platform that constantly evolves, dominates, and increases its value over time. Forgetting this phase is like building a high-performance vehicle and never changing the oil or upgrading the software. Eventually, it will seize and fail. The iteration engine is a feedback loop. It operates on a simple, ruthless cycle: data acquisition, hypothesis, execution, and integration. First, data acquisition. You cannot optimize what you do not measure. Your automated system must generate clean, actionable data. This is your telemetry. Identify a maximum of 5 key performance indicators, or KPIs, that give you a high-fidelity snapshot of the system's health. This could be customer acquisition cost, conversion rate, average resolution time for a support ticket, or production error rate. These 5 metrics are your dashboard. They are the only numbers you need to look at. Anything more is noise. Second, hypothesis. Once a week or once a month, you review the dashboard. You are not looking for what's working. You are hunting for the bottleneck. You are looking for the point of maximum friction. Where is the system underperforming? Is the conversion rate dropping? Is customer churn ticking upwards? You analyze the data and form a testable hypothesis. For example, we hypothesize that changing the email subject line in our onboarding sequence from X to Y will increase open rates by 15%, reducing early customer churn. It is a precise, measurable, and falsifiable statement. Third, execution. You do not overhaul the entire system based on a theory. That is reckless. Instead, you run a controlled test. You A/B test the new email subject line on a small segment of new users. You deploy the change in a limited capacity. You isolate the variable and measure its direct impact. The goal is to validate or invalidate your hypothesis with minimal risk and resource expenditure. Fourth and finally, integration. You analyze the results of your test. Did the new subject line increase open rates by 15%? If yes, the hypothesis is validated. The change is no longer a test. It becomes the new standard. You update the standard operating procedure, you deploy the change system-wide, and the entire machine is now operating at a higher level of efficiency. If the test failed, that is also a win. You have acquired valuable data on what doesn't work. You discard the change, form a new hypothesis based on this new intelligence, and you run the cycle again. This 4-stage engine is your role as the architect. You are no longer operating the machine, you are upgrading it.
You are the engineer reviewing the telemetry and deploying targeted software patches that increase performance. By installing this iteration engine, you build a business that not only runs itself, but improves itself. It becomes an anti-fragile asset that gets stronger, smarter, and more profitable over time with minimal direct intervention. This is the end game.
The protocol is clear. An idea is a signal, not a solution. The system is what converts that signal into value. You validate, you build the core, you iterate. That is the cycle. Every other activity is noise. At Capital Sanctum, we deconstruct complexity into actionable strategy. We provide the tactical advantage. If this system resonates with you, subscribe and activate notifications.